It's happening now, whether they realize it or not. The ones who took you for granted, who overlooked your presence and underestimated your worth, are about to feel something they never expected, the weight of your absence. And it won't come with shouting or dramatic exits. No, this shift is quiet, almost invisible, yet profoundly powerful. You're not slamming any doors, you're simply choosing not to open them anymore. As Mercury transitions into Punarvasu, this subtle yet deeply transformative alignment begins to work its magic. You may not hear much about it in mainstream circles, but trust this. Its effects will ripple through your emotional, mental, and spiritual spheres in ways you won't be able to ignore. This is a cosmic turning point. But it's not about the return of someone from your past. It's about the return of your own clarity, your inner compass, your sacred sense of self. What's coming back to you now is not another person. It's your own truth, your own peace, your own power. You'll feel it in subtle ways first. You may begin to withdraw, not because you're angry or bitter, but because you've outgrown the spaces that once tolerated your light while never honoring it. You'll feel less inclined to explain, defend, or justify your choices. The energy you once gave so freely, your time, your words, your emotional labor, is now being held in protection. And that choice, in and of itself, sends out a frequency louder than any confrontation ever could. Those who mistreated you, drained you, underestimated your brilliance, they'll notice, not because you've said something, but because you've stopped saying anything at all. Silence has a language, and it speaks in volumes when spoken from a place of healed awareness. The echo of your absence will linger in rooms you no longer enter. It will stir questions in minds that once dismissed your presence. They'll remember you not for the noise you made, but for the peace you embodied. And now that your peace is no longer available to them, it becomes a mirror to their own unrest. Have you been speaking less lately, but noticing how much more impact your words have when you do speak? That's no accident. That's Mercury refining your message, sharpening your inner voice, preparing you for something that doesn't require volume, just vibration. You're being taught that the energy behind your words is more powerful than the words themselves. This is truth expressed through tone. It's not performance, it's alignment. And if you felt certain people subtly shift around you, their tone changing, their behavior slightly off, it's because they're responding to your withdrawal, even if they don't consciously understand it. They're picking up on the shift, trying to decode it, and some may even try to return. They may circle back into your life, acting casual, pretending nothing ever happened. But here's the thing, many won't come with real apologies. They'll come with familiar words, recycled sentiments, even warmth that feels confusing, but none of it grounded in true accountability. The universe isn't testing you by bringing these people back to reward you. It's testing whether you've truly healed by seeing if you'll allow them to re-enter the sacred space you've worked so hard to clean. This isn't about punishment or revenge. It's about discernment. Not every knock on the door deserves to be answered. And not every person who returns is a gift. Some are simply echoes of old patterns, checking if they still have access. What makes this so dangerous is that many of these energies won't look harmful at first glance. They'll feel familiar. They'll sound like comfort, like nostalgia, like easy laughter and warm memories. That's the trap. Because comfort isn't always truth. Sometimes comfort is just the absence of growth. This is your fork in the road. One path leads back into emotional loops that once made you question your worth. The other leads forward into an era where your peace is self-sourced and unshakable. Choose carefully. You've already walked away once, and yet they're still orbiting you. That's not coincidence. That's gravitational pull. And what they won't admit, but you may already sense, is that your silence made them louder. Not with truth, but with desperation. They're mimicking you now. Picking up on your language, your style, your energy. They've studied your movements, your phrases, even your quiet. But it never lands the same way because it never was about the words. It was always the frequency behind them. You didn't learn how to talk like that. You channeled something. You spoke from alignment, and that's something no one can duplicate. Not with imitation, not with mimicry, not with noise. So now they reach for your ghost, hoping to find the magic you once freely shared. But what they're really finding is emptiness. They can recreate your tone, but not your truth. They can mirror your style, but not your spirit. They can adopt your cadence, but not your calling. That's what they don't understand. You weren't performing, you were becoming. And now that you've moved on, what remains isn't a shadow of you. It's a blueprint they can't decode. You're not lost. You're not even hiding. You've simply evolved past the frequency where they once met you. And in trying to replicate you, they only make your originality stand out more. You've become too real to be recreated, too aligned to be manipulated, too whole to be divided by what no longer resonates. This is the beauty of your transformation. The moment they realize you're not coming back in the way they expect, they'll also realize they never truly understood what you were offering to begin with. Your presence wasn't a mood, it was a moment of divine alignment, a rare intersection of truth and grace, and that moment has moved forward. Your essence may linger in their memory, but the frequency has already shifted. Mercury isn't blessing replicas, it's elevating originals. The universe isn't rewarding old energies that once ignored you. It's nourishing the roots you've grown in solitude. While others chase validation, you've become a vessel for something more sacred. You're not becoming unreachable. You're becoming unmistakably you. Peace isn't the absence of noise. It's the refusal to invest in what no longer serves your soul. It's the moment you stop trying to make sense of things that were never meant to fit. And in this quiet clarity, something powerful is being revealed. Your silence is not emptiness. It's presence in its highest form. This cosmic moment is cutting cords you didn't even realize were draining you. The ties that bound you to old cycles, the loops of overthinking, the late-night replaying of what could have been, whether they understood or cared, it's all dissolving now. What's rising in its place is you, clear, rooted, unapologetically whole. You keep thinking you should have said more, that maybe one last message, one more explanation, might have made a difference. But now it's just gone. Like something reached into the depths of your energy and cleared out your psychic inbox. Not because you got an answer, not because something was resolved, but because the need for an answer simply dissolved. There's no longing to circle back, no anxious checking for signs or closure. What used to feel urgent now feels irrelevant. And that's not a mistake. That's the quiet power of Mercury in its current placement. It's not loud, not flashy, but it's doing something sacred. It's removing the mental clutter, the static that used to fill your thoughts, the tabs that were constantly open in the background of your mind, running on silent autopilot. All of that, gone. Not because you forced yourself to let go, but because your soul finally realized it didn't need to hold on. What once kept you pacing in mental circles now fades quietly into nothing. Not because you're numb, but because you've reached a point of inner truth. And in that truth, there's nothing left to chase. This silence isn't emptiness, it's sacred space. And as it expands inside you, something new begins to arrive. Not distractions, not superficial opportunities that dress themselves up like fresh beginnings, but feel hollow when you touch them. No, what's arriving now is real, pure, anchored in your core. You begin to feel the stirrings of desires you'd long forgotten, soul-aligned visions that had been buried under the noise. The kind of clarity that doesn't demand answers, but brings knowing. These aren't breadcrumbs of destiny. They're blueprints. And they don't show up because you're searching, but because you've finally made room. Space for the new. Space for what's truly yours. This is no longer about healing. It's about updating. You've been running an old system for too long, one built on survival, validation, and explaining yourself to people who were never meant to understand you. But now, the system is being rewritten. You're not rebooting, you're upgrading, and nobody saw it coming. To the outside world, you seem to have simply disappeared, pulled back, vanished into silence. But what they couldn't see was that the universe was working on you, line by line, code by code, cleansing and reconfiguring your inner architecture. This isn't absence. This is divine maintenance. And as your inner system clears, something sacred reawakens. Your power to create, your ability to channel, your voice, not just the one you speak with, but the deeper voice of your spirit. It's coming back online, and so is your future. Not one built on compensation for past losses, but one that was always meant for you. It was never gone. It was just waiting behind the walls you didn't know you were ready to break down. But now that the air is clear and the portal is open, you must be mindful. Because whatever steps into this energetic space next will shape the next version of you. This new era isn't just about possibility, it's about alignment. What you welcome now must match your frequency, your truth, your evolution. And yes, you've started to notice it, how people look at you differently now. There's a subtle shift in their eyes when they ask how you've been. A curiosity tinged with confusion, as if they can sense that something has changed but can't quite name it. Some might say you've grown distant. Others might accuse you of being cold or distracted, but they don't realize the truth. You're not harder to read because you're hiding. You're harder to read because you've stopped broadcasting. You're no longer explaining yourself to those who never really listened. You're not offering your energy like an open book. The pages are sealed now, and the cover no longer gives away the story. This isn't about being mysterious. It's about being selective. You used to be easily accessible. Your energy, your thoughts, your openness were there for anyone who asked. But now there's a filter, a divine one. One that doesn't respond to surface-level engagement. If someone can't reach beyond the shallow, they won't reach you at all. The conversations that once felt like connection now feel like interference. The check-ins that once seemed kind now feel intrusive. It's not because you're rejecting people. It's because your soul is choosing resonance over routine. Mercury isn't amplifying noise anymore. It's tuning into frequency. And only those who know how to truly listen, beyond the words, beyond the small talk, can hear you now. You haven't changed. You've just stopped translating yourself for people who were never fluent in your truth. You've stopped softening your edges for comfort. You've stopped watering down your spirit just to be understood. That old version of you, the one who over-explained, overshared, and overgave, is quietly fading. And in its place is someone deeper, clearer, truer. Now, when people look at you, they don't see familiarity. They see reflection, a mirror that doesn't flatter but reveals. You've become something sacred, not because you're untouchable, but because you're authentic. And authenticity doesn't always feel familiar. It often feels challenging. That's why some people are confused, some even frustrated, because the keys they once used to access your heart no longer fit the locks, and they won't. Those doors have been changed. You're still here, still kind, still present. But the part of you they clung to, the version they felt entitled to, that's no longer available. This isn't you being cruel. It's not rejection. It's redirection. And those who are meant to walk beside you in this next chapter will know how to show up. They won't come with questions. They won't come with assumptions. They'll come with presence, with energy, with truth. Because that's the only language your spirit speaks now. And maybe, just maybe, this silence you've stepped into isn't confusion at all. It's calibration. It's sacred alignment. The reason you don't feel the need to speak, to explain, to perform, is because something greater is moving through you. You are not shutting down. You are being held, shielded, protected from the temptation to pour your energy into places that can't hold it. You're not ignoring anyone. You're being cloaked, covered, hidden in plain sight, not as punishment, but as preservation. You see, not everyone deserves to hear the new version of your voice, the one that's been reshaped by silence, refined by solitude, and elevated by truth. Some people were only ever meant to encounter the echo of your transformation, not the origin, not the source. And that's why Mercury's current alignment is not just muting the noise, it's locking the vault. Your thoughts now feel heavier, not because they're dark, but because they carry weight. They are sacred. They are spells. Every word you choose to speak is a seed, a contract, a commitment. And because of that, the universe is becoming highly selective about who gets access to your magic. Your words are no longer casual, they're cosmic, and you are being guided to protect your voice with reverence. So if it feels like you're quiet lately, like you've gone inward, it's because your soul has chosen depth over dialogue, stillness over noise, purpose over performance. You're not going quiet. You're becoming encrypted. There's a big difference. Right now, you're not withdrawing, not disappearing, not becoming small. You're simply tuning into a higher frequency where the noise no longer follows. This is a sacred shift. Not one where you stop speaking, but one where your voice becomes so intentional, so protected, so encoded with truth that it no longer belongs in casual spaces. Not everyone is meant to hear what you've come to understand. And the universe knows that. There are certain cosmic seasons when you are encouraged to express openly, to share freely, to pour out all that you're carrying. But this moment? This isn't one of them. This is a time when the divine places its gentle hand over your voice and whispers, "Not yet." Not because your truth isn't important, but because your truth is sacred. And anything sacred must be handled with care. It must be lived before it can be shared. It must settle into your bones, not be scattered in conversations where its depth can't be held. What you're holding now, the insights, the clarity, the intuitive knowing, it's not meant to be filtered through the lens of others. Not now, not yet. Some truths are too tender to be discussed before they're fully formed. Some revelations are so raw and transformative that they ask you to sit in silence with them until they no longer shake in your hands. And that's exactly what this Mercury transit is doing. It's not muting you, it's refining your signal. It's helping you release the need for approval, explanation, or even understanding. Because some things are meant to be felt, not analyzed. It may feel like you've gone invisible, like your presence is being overlooked, your voice not heard, your thoughts not received. But what if that's the point? What if your current stillness is not absence but alignment? Not rejection, but redirection? What if the silence around you is the sacred veil of divine timing, wrapping around your spirit to shield your growth from interference? You're not being ignored. You're being incubated, protected, hidden, not out of punishment, but preservation. There is a deep intelligence at work here, something ancient and wise that knows when to pull you into the spotlight and when to keep you in the shadows. And right now, the shadows are where your magic is maturing. Yes, some people may misread your silence. They'll project their own meanings onto it. They'll say you're avoiding, hiding, even ghosting, but they're seeing it from their own lens, from a frequency you no longer reside in. You've outgrown the need to be seen by eyes that can't recognize your depth. You've stopped needing to be understood by those who never truly listened. And honestly, that's growth. This is not the kind of quiet born from pain or confusion. This is the kind of quiet that speaks volumes. A sovereign, deliberate, grounded quiet. The kind of quiet that changes the air in a room. The kind that causes people to lean in, sensing that something important is happening beneath the surface. And they're right. It is. You are. You've noticed it, haven't you? How you don't talk just to fill space anymore. How your energy now communicates louder than your words ever did. How your presence feels heavier, more rooted, more intentional. That's not a coincidence. That's Mercury's energy aligning you with a deeper mode of communication, one where less is more, and silence becomes a language of its own. Even the people closest to you might feel distant lately. Conversations trail off. Plans get canceled. Messages go unanswered. It's not always you, and it's not always them. Sometimes, it's something bigger moving through the space between you. Something unseen, creating separation not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. To protect your energy, to give your soul room to breathe, to pause the noise so you can hear your own inner voice again. You may find yourself skipping invitations, stepping back from group chats, ignoring the call to engage. You're not being rude, you're being redirected. Your spirit is quietly obeying a higher frequency, one that doesn't need constant stimulation or validation, one that values clarity over commentary. This withdrawal isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It's your higher self making choices your ego doesn't yet understand. Sometimes the ones who feel like they're walking away from you are actually being guided to clear space around you. Sometimes the isolation you feel is the sacred space where your transformation is being cradled. And sometimes the silence you've been placed in is the universe's most powerful way of telling you, you are not alone. You are being prepared. You're not being punished. You're being held. Think about the situations you thought were doors closing on you. That friend who disappeared. That conversation that fizzled. That opportunity that slipped through your fingers. From a narrow lens, they look like losses. But zoom out, they're divine edits. The universe is curating your path, removing distractions, protecting your timeline. You're not being shut out. You're being positioned for something greater. Not everyone deserves immediate access to this version of you, this new, unshaped, still integrating version that is emerging. Not everyone is equipped to witness the sacred, awkward, miraculous process of your becoming. Some people only see you clearly when you've already arrived. But this stage, this becoming, it's too holy for the wrong audience. That's why Mercury isn't silencing you. It's filtering your signal, tuning your audience, guiding your voice to the ears that can truly hear it. And you're starting to understand it now, aren't you? You don't need to explain yourself 100 times. You don't need to soften your truth just to make it palatable. You don't need to translate your intuition into logic just to gain acceptance. You speak when it's right, and when you do, it's like thunder rolling in the distance. Unmistakable, unmissable, undeniable. There is nothing wrong with you if no one seems to get you lately. That's the point. You were never meant to be understood right now. You were meant to be missed. Your absence is echoing in spaces you used to fill, and that echo is your medicine for others. It teaches them what your presence meant in ways your words never could. You are not disappearing. You are being hidden with purpose. This isn't exile. It's encryption. You are becoming the message that can only be received by those who are attuned enough to recognize its frequency. And that frequency, it's rising. You are rising. So don't rush back into visibility. Don't panic when the noise fades. Don't chase clarity where confusion reigns. Instead, sit with the quiet. Feel its weight. Trust its wisdom. And know that when the moment is right, your voice will carry like wildfire, precise, powerful, and perfectly timed. The kind of shift you're experiencing now isn't just a mood or a phase. It's a profound inner recalibration. Something sacred is being rewritten in the way you express yourself, not just outwardly, but internally too. It's like your entire system is choosing silence as your new language, not out of avoidance, but as a powerful tool of alignment. You're no longer here to fill in the empty spaces with small talk, no longer interested in exchanging words that feel hollow or explaining yourself to people who already made up their minds about who you are. The old way of expressing, defending, over-explaining, it's dissolving, and in its place, something sharper, clearer, more deeply rooted is emerging. This is a communication upgrade, but not the kind the world usually notices. It's not louder. It's quieter, more intentional. You're no longer communicating just to be understood. You're expressing only when it resonates, only when your soul is moved to speak. And often, it won't be words that do the talking. It will be your energy. Your energy now speaks in volumes that language can't hold. You can walk into a room and without saying a word, shift the entire atmosphere. People will feel your presence like a frequency. Even when you say something as simple as, "I'm fine," it will be layered with a truth that only the intuitively tuned in can truly decode. You're not hiding, you're aligning. You're not withholding, you're becoming more precise. What used to be debates, long texts, exhausting justifications, or efforts to be fully seen, those are now being replaced by quiet boundaries, internal knowing, and an unwillingness to dilute your truth just to be palatable. This transformation isn't born from bitterness. It's birthed from clarity. There's nothing left to prove, and once that realization lands in your spirit, something incredible happens. Your silence becomes sacred. You see, this isn't just about Mercury moving through the cosmos in a new way. It's Mercury as an oracle now, not a messenger of gossip, noise, or endless loops of mental chatter. It's Mercury purified, refined, operating from a higher octave. And your voice, your body, your aura, it has become a vessel for that sacred frequency. When you speak now, you speak with authority, not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that commands respect through presence alone. People will listen more intently, not because you raise your voice, but because you no longer offer it freely. You've become selective with your expression, and that in itself has become an act of power. Those who feel the shift in you will have one of two responses. Some will be drawn in, reverent and curious, sensing the depth in you they had overlooked. Others will step back, unsure of how to approach the new energy you're carrying, and you'll feel no urge to clarify yourself either way. This is no longer about getting others to understand you. This is about embodying your truth so completely that you no longer bend yourself just to be legible to those who were never listening deeply anyway. It's also becoming clear now who was truly strong and who was merely leaning on you. Some people weren't confident. They were simply standing beside you, absorbing your energy like a mirror to reflect themselves. They mistook proximity to your power for their own. But now that you've withdrawn your energy, their illusion of strength is collapsing. And not quietly either. It's breaking apart in visible, uncomfortable ways. The scaffolding they built from your validation, from your presence, from your consistent support, it's all coming down. What's left behind isn't your absence, it's their exposure. Because the truth is, you were never in competition. You weren't playing games. You were simply being. But others, they were silently measuring, competing, projecting. And now that you're no longer accessible in the way they're used to, their illusions are cracking like thin ice under too much pressure. Your absence didn't make you smaller. It made them realize how much they relied on you just to feel tall. The most startling part? You didn't even try to make a statement. You just left. You pulled back. You stopped overextending. You stopped being the emotional safety net. And that one act of self-preservation revealed more than years of explanation ever could. They assumed they were above you. They assumed they were unaffected. But now they're being forced to see the truth, that the confidence they felt wasn't real. It was constructed on the foundation of your constant forgiveness, your willingness to be available, your invisible loyalty that asked for nothing in return. Now, with this new Mercury frequency cutting through illusions like a scalpel, people are being left face to face with themselves. No comparisons to hide behind. No distractions to deflect onto, just their own reflection, stripped of the comfort your presence once offered. And many are not ready for what they see. This energy doesn't punish, it reveals. It peels back the curtain, not out of spite, but out of necessity. It's time for everyone to meet the truth. Truth they avoided, truth they deflected, truth they denied, because it was too uncomfortable to confront. The weight they feel now is their own. You used to carry it for them, quietly, energetically. They thought silence was your defeat, but it was your liberation. They assumed detachment meant weakness, but it's actually the clearest sign of emotional strength. Now they are left spinning, confused, destabilized, not because of anything you said, but because of what your silence is saying now. It's not your voice that had power. It was your presence. And now that it's no longer available for them to interpret, they're losing access to the illusion they built around it. You're no longer translating your energy for people who refuse to learn your language. And that shift, it's irreversible. This absence you've created isn't one that people just get over. It lingers. It teaches. Not with vengeance, but with truth. This isn't karma coming to punish. It's the natural consequence of energetic imbalance finally recalibrating itself. Because when Mercury aligns like this, it doesn't just replay your words. It echoes everything they ignored. Every moment they looked away from your vulnerability. Every time they dismissed your truth. Every time you chose peace over confrontation so as not to disrupt the fragile dynamic. Now, all those avoided truths are returning, not as a storm, but as clarity. Pure, sharp, undeniable clarity. And the silence they once dismissed, it has become the mirror. A mirror they can't look away from. A mirror that doesn't lie. A mirror that reflects back everything they refused to see when you were still offering your presence freely. You didn't craft revenge. You didn't seek retribution. You simply healed. You realigned. And your absence has become the most powerful teacher in the room. You're not missing. You're transforming. And in that transformation, the truth is speaking louder than you ever needed to. There are moments in life when the universe shifts the energy so subtly yet powerfully that the change isn't seen, it's felt. This is one of those moments. Mercury, now aligned in a sacred and rare way, is not just casting a spotlight on truth. It's offering a quiet invitation, one that gives others a chance. Not a punishment, not a loud reckoning, but a space where reflection becomes possible. It's giving people a chance to recognize where they went wrong, to feel the weight of their choices, not as shame, but as a gateway to genuine growth. Mercury in this placement doesn't just expose people for what they've done or who they pretended to be. It offers them an open door, a divine opportunity to take accountability, to feel remorse in the places they once felt entitled, and to return, not just physically, but energetically. Wiser, clearer, and more aligned. That is, if they are willing to come back honestly. If they're brave enough to return without their masks, without manipulation, without the stories they used to justify what they did. And if they don't come back, that's perfectly okay. Because you've already moved, not in location, but in energy. You've transitioned to a new frequency, a higher vibration, a timeline where your peace is not negotiable, where your boundaries are sacred and not up for debate. You've stepped into a space where your energy is no longer accessible through guilt trips, half-hearted apologies, or performances of regret. This version of you is no longer desperate to explain your worth or convince someone of your heart. Every step you take in silence is now a message in itself. Every non-response is no longer avoidance. It's a broadcast of self-respect. You don't have to say anything anymore because your absence says everything. You've stopped speaking, and in doing so, you've allowed the real lesson to begin. For them and for you. They may never admit it out loud. They may never have the courage to put it into words. But make no mistake, they felt it. They felt the shift. They felt the moment your energy pulled back, the second your light redirected inward. And maybe for the first time, they realized it wasn't about the things you did or the words you said. It was about the presence you carried. You were never trying to steal the spotlight. You were the spotlight. Quietly, consistently, gracefully. You were the one holding it all together. Your kindness was the warmth they leaned on. Your loyalty was the gravitational pull anchoring the space. And still, they mistook that gentle strength for weakness. They thought your patience meant passivity. They confused your grace with a green light to take without giving. They assumed your forgiveness meant you'd forgotten. But everything has changed now. This sacred shift has done what words never could. Your silence was louder than any speech. Your distance was a mirror they couldn't avoid. And now, here we are. Not at the end of the story, but at a turning point, a quiet climax. And it's not about revenge. It's not about proving them wrong or seeking validation. It's about something much more powerful, the return of your light. Only this time, that light is not shining on them. It's not looking outward, hoping for acknowledgement. It's shining from you, radiating in all directions from a place of deep inner knowing. This is what the entire cycle has been preparing you for. You've walked through the darkness. You've sat in the pain. You've questioned your worth, doubted your intuition, wondered why love seemed to hurt more than it healed. And yet here you are, not bitter, not broken, brighter. You're not colder, you're just clearer. You're not shrinking. You've become sovereign. You're no longer seeking to fit into someone else's version of love or loyalty. You're defining it on your own terms. And now, those who once overlooked you are watching. Some are returning, slowly, cautiously, some with guilt, some with awe. But they're not approaching the same version of you they once knew. Because you've changed. The terms have changed. This time, you're not offering your energy blindly. You're not handing out access like it's endless. You're not available for the same patterns. You're not here to be someone's spiritual recharge station when they've drained themselves from their own lack of self-awareness. And no, this isn't about cutting people off cold or building walls around your heart. This isn't about becoming unreachable or unkind. It's about discernment, sacred, spiritual discernment. You're no longer asking, do they need me? You're asking, do they see me? Do they honor me? Can they meet me at the depth I live from? If someone shows up now, they must come with more than just words. You don't need more promises. You've heard them before. What matters now is presence, effort, accountability. The kind of vulnerability that says, I've done the work. I understand what I've broken. And I'm not here to take. I'm here to earn. Maybe they've changed. Maybe they've grown. Maybe they're ready. And maybe, just maybe, they're worthy of being seen again. But not because they demand forgiveness. Not because they cry the loudest. Only because you choose to open that door again, if it feels aligned in your soul. Forgiveness is not a weakness. It's a sacred art. And not everyone deserves access to it. Not because you're holding a grudge, but because you're holding your truth. This new energy you're stepping into is not fed by pride or ego. It's fed by clarity, precision, alignment. You're not giving because you're afraid to lose someone. You're giving because it feels right, because it resonates in your body. You're no longer pouring into every cup just to be needed. You're reserving that sacred light of yours for those who can reflect it back with intention, with care, with real reciprocity. Because here's the truth. If someone couldn't honor you in your absence, if they didn't recognize your worth when you weren't available, they don't deserve to bask in your presence now that you've remembered who you are. They weren't blind. They just didn't look deeply enough. And you are no longer asking to be seen. You've become the vision. This is your evolution. This is your return, not to them, but to yourself. You've reclaimed the parts of you that were once scattered in the hands of those who didn't know how to hold them. You've picked yourself up from emotional floors that others walked away from. And somehow, through all of it, you didn't lose your essence. You refined it. You've remembered your power, not the kind that dominates, but the kind that attracts without force. The kind that glows, not to impress, but to illuminate. And now, those who truly see you, the ones who always did, even in your silence, they're still here. They never left. Because real connection doesn't fade with distance, it deepens. So if someone returns now, let them come correctly. Let them show, not just tell, you who they are and who they've become. And if they can meet you at the level you now live from, then perhaps they are part of this next chapter. But if not, release them with peace. Not with bitterness, just with clarity. Because this season isn't about who's watching you, it's about who's worthy of standing beside you. And that list, it just got much more sacred. Thank you for being here, for holding space for this message, for allowing yourself to evolve in silence and strength. If you've resonated with this message, I'm truly honored to share this space with you. Feel free to share your reflections or personal journey in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you've walked through, what you've learned, and how you've reclaimed your light. And if you'd like to continue receiving these kinds of deep, soul-centered messages, consider subscribing. Your presence, your energy, your attention, it all matters, and it's deeply appreciated. Until next time, may you continue to rise in your truth, glow in your grace, and walk your sacred path with a heart wide open. Take care and keep shining, brighter than ever before.